mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, where I watch shit so you don't have to. And today I'm here to talk about episode 5 of HBO's limited series, We Own This City. This episode I think is interesting to compare to the previous one. Previous one was great, and I think that was largely due to the fact that it was heavy on Wayne Jenkins stuff, and Jon Bernthal has been carrying this. No, I don't want to say he's carrying the show, because that makes it sound like it wouldn't be good otherwise. He's the most interesting and compelling aspect of the show, and his performance is the most engaging and interesting to watch. But this week, we saw very little Wayne, and I think we kind of come back to what I think is not a problem with the show, because I don't want to sound like I don't like this show. I do. But what I think is a way it could have been improved, or something that, like, were this done differently, it might feel a little bit different. And I think, I mentioned this before, I feel like not inconsistent, the way the timelines jump around, I feel like that hurts this show. You know, most shows have a very standard, straightforward narrative. You know, you might get a couple episodes into it and you're like, okay, I see where this is going. The end game is going to be something like this. And as you proceed through the season of the show, you go through these experiences, you see the characters do whatever it is they do. The show kind of like peaks, it has a climax, all this kind of stuff. Like, it's a very traditional structure. Now, I'm not saying every show needs to have that, but what I am saying, if you're not going to do that, it can't feel like wash, rinse, repeat every week. And that's what this show kind of feels like at times, is like, here's another week of more ways in which the police are shitty. And you're not going to get any arguments from me on watching stuff that showcases how shitty the police are. I'm on board. But what I am saying is that every week it feels like, I understand they're building a case, right? This is the case that they built against these cops. But when you jump all over the timeline like this, and it's more just like, yeah, so here's what Herschel did this time. Here's what this person, it's just people telling stories of the same type of thing over and over and over, and you're jumping all over the timeline. Every episode just kind of feels the same. And I think that's what, I don't even want to say hurts this show, but I feel like if it wasn't like that, it would feel a little bit better. But also, how do you structure a show that really is just the presentation of evidence? Now, you could show it without the narration, as in like show it progressively, like from, what was it? Like, what's the earliest we've seen? Like 2007, something like that. You know, have the show start at 2007 and go up to the arrest, and we just see Wayne Jenkins being a piece of shit. We see the gun trace task force form, all of that kind of stuff. Yeah, that'd be a little bit more traditional, but I also feel like it would take away that feeling of every episode is the same. Because, like, I couldn't tell you which episode is the best one. Like, they're all structured exactly the same. You get stories from Gondo, you get stories from Jamel, you get some new person that's in there telling stories, you get Nicole interviewing people who, every time she interviews somebody, they go, yeah, the cops fucking suck. And it's like the same thing every week. And I think that's what is damaging this show, in that, damaging sounds harsh, but what I think is lessening how great this show could be is that jumping all over the timelines without a end goal, where it's like, well, we know the end goal is these guys get arrested, but we've already seen that. We already know that. The trip to get there needs to feel like a journey rather than just droplets of information. That's kind of what it feels like. Here's some more information. Here's some more information. Here's some more information. And with the same structure and the same design every week. Whereas, like, okay, example, I could tell you episode 3 of season 6 of Better Call Saul was the one where this happened. I could tell you episode 7 of season 3 of Succession is where this happened, because every episode is distinctive. None of these episodes stand out from any of the other ones. The only thing I can tell you is that episode 4 had the most Wayne Jenkins in it, and that's it. But they're all kind of the same episode. So it's like, I just feel like that's making this show be not as great as it could be. But I mean, shit, maybe I'm alone on that. I feel like anytime I give any kind of inkling of criticism, I'm on my own. But we'll see. So I want to talk about the episode a little bit. We begin to see the gun trace task force members turn on each other, which I thought was interesting. Gondo, I'm just going to read off some of the stuff that Gondo said about Jamel. talked about how he has a weakness for pussy. Who don't? But specifically, he's married, but he has a girlfriend. I think he said her name was Crystal something. And she knows all the people around the hood, all people in the drug game, and she gives them like the location and whereabouts and times for these people so that they can rob them while, as cops, they can rob them. He says that Jamel says that he killed a person, but it was like self-defense or whatever. Gondo says he killed 3 people in a year, and the present day deputy commissioner coached him through his story to help him get away with one of those. Jamel gives info on Gondo as well. Talks about a time where, Gondo says that he was shot and makes it sound like an accident. Like, yeah, I was dealing with somebody else and they shot at that person and accidentally hit me. And Jamel's like, no, I think that, well, we don't see that. But essentially Jamel says, no, that was a purposeful shooting as a retaliation for something he'd done. I think he said it was something like a drug bust or something like that. They both give info on Wayne. They talk about, I think the biggest thing that we take away from Wayne here, and this is how they ultimately, I think, are going to get these guys, is the same way they get everybody. It's the same way they get the mafia, the same way they get Capone, the same way they just got Young Thug, is following the money. And these guys not only were very brazen about stealing overtime, essentially, but they didn't even claim it. So they got the fraud, they got the tax evasion. That's kind of stuff. I mean, they got a solid case, period. But that stuff they give up both willingly, but also via a tap. They bugged Gondo's phone, and I'm sorry, his car, and they hear him having this conversation with Jamel, which was a funny conversation. It was just like, yeah, Wayne Jenkins off the chain. Yeah, he off the chain. He off the chain, ain't he? Yeah, he's off the chain. He off the chain. Ain't he off the chain? Sure is off the chain. that was such a weird scene, but it was funny though. Nicole does something a little bit different. We get to hear a little bit about Nicole herself this week rather than her just interviewing people and getting the same kind of information. She tells a story at the end about her brother getting harassed. They lived in a nice neighborhood and he's just coming home from work and the police harassed him and just because of what he looked like in the neighborhood that he was in. He hadn't done anything. Just a guy coming home from work. But we also see her meet up with James Otis, who had a real bad run-in with Herschel. So Herschel pulls him over for a busted taillight. He says it's not the first time Herschel's pulled him over. Taillight was legit busted. He said he was waiting for the part to come in because it was a classic car, so you can't get the parts easy. Herschel, is harassing him. Herschel intentionally bumps into him and then goes up, assaulting a police officer, arrest this guy. And just as we've seen throughout the course of this season so far, like at this point, we already know what's going to happen. They're going to throw him in jail. They're going to tell him, like, here's this form that says that we'll let you out now and drop the charges if you promise not to sue, which he confirms is what he was offered. Herschel steals money out of his car because he gets the right to search it because he smells weed. He steals this guy's entire paycheck in cash out of his car, something I think was just under $700. And now the guy's in jail for like 2 days. He gets out. He doesn't have his money. He gets fired from his job for missing the 2 days. And now he can't afford to pay for his car. So his car's about to get repoed. So even if he does get a job, how's he going to get there? And this is all happening to this guy because Herschel just felt like fucking with him. Like, it wasn't like he really, like, a taillight. Come on, you don't have to do that. He knew who this was. He recognized the car. He decided to harass this guy. He fabricated a reason to put him in jail. He fabricated a reason to go in his car. He took his money. All of this. And for what? For what? Just because he can. Don't let me get started on that, boy. I got another place I can send you if you want to hear me rant about the police. I think I said that last week, but I'm not fucking around, man. I don't fuck with them cops, man. We meet a new character very briefly. They call him K-Stop. I can't remember what his actual name was. But we find out what happens when you try to be a good cop. And I think that's what... We don't spend a lot of time on this, but this is kind of like a world that I would have liked to have spent some time in throughout the course of this show, because I've always said that, they say, oh, it's just a few bad apples. Where are the good apples? The apples that go... These terrible things are happening. Something needs to happen. It's either you're the bad apple doing the dirty shit, or you're complicit and quiet and saying nothing and allowing it to happen, which in my opinion, makes you also a bad apple. So K-Stop decided I can't even say he was going to be a good apple. He was presented with a hypothetical. Like, hey, if we was to be out here stealing money and shit, would you be okay with it? And he's like, absolutely not. And then we find out that this guy got transferred right after. I wish we had spent a little bit more time with that, because, every week over and over and over, we get more examples of how the cops were shitty. I would have liked to get more examples of how the cops managed to maintain their shittiness. The idea that a guy might come along who isn't on board with what you want to do. How do you handle that? Or maybe you don't give him a quiz first and you just do it and this guy tells on you. What happens then? So, I would have liked to spend a little bit more time there. Maybe we will in episode 6, but we'll see. But I also liked how brazen these guys got. They know they're being watched. They do the shit anyway. They go overboard with harassing this guy, with the black guy with the nice house, to the point where Wayne's impersonating an attorney. The brazenness of stealing the OT when you ain't even there. They're like, oh, Wayne logged overtime when he was on vacation in Aruba. The fact that they have such a system there that is so corrupt, and when I say there, I don't mean Baltimore, I mean police, have a system that is so corrupt that your people will back you no matter what you do, that you will do things that bad, that obvious, and that out in the open because it's just been ingrained in you and it's passed down and built. Just like, Wayne, when Wayne first started, the one guy immediately started leading him in the wrong direction. And then Wayne got another guy, immediately started leading him in the wrong direction. And it's just this learned behavior. And it's fucking disgusting. But we end this episode with Wayne being we see the approach that we saw at the end of episode 1, where Wayne pulls up for the internal affairs paperwork that he supposedly didn't fill out right and gets arrested. But we also see everyone else pulling up as well. Afterward, we see, what's his name? Commissioner Davis, I want to say his name was, laying out the charges, which was everything I already said. And yeah, we see that they had enough to finally go after him. They did. And that's going to be that. And then the last thing I want to talk about is that they closed the episode with Sean Suiter. And I want to kind of pose a question to the audience about this. Suiter sees Wayne and everyone getting arrested for all the stuff that they've done. The rest of the time we see Suiter, which it's a minute, maybe, we see him recalling all the times where he was put into a compromised position by Wayne, a tough spot, rocking a hard place. Where it's like, okay, here, you can take this money, you cannot, whatever. And it's like, okay, do I take the money and now I'm a criminal just like him? Do I not take it and now I look like somebody I can't be trusted, I might snitch on them, whatever. How do you handle these situations? And we've seen Sean handle these situations, I believe, the correct way. But how are we supposed to interpret how distraught he is over Wayne and all them getting arrested? Is he distraught because he thinks, look how close I was to this? I was one step away. I was one different decision from this being me. Or was he more involved in this than we think? And because early in the episode, he's like, yeah, when I was on the drug team, I saw some shit. I think he even said I did some stuff I wasn't proud of. And him and this guy just share a drink. And it makes me wonder, the situations that maybe we don't see, or even I think the one where Wayne offered him money, I don't think we even actually saw what decision he made. I think they left it kind of ambiguous. Is he upset because he was a little bit more involved than we, the viewer, think he was, and now he's worried about himself? Oh man, that shit I did back when I was on, on a drug squad could be coming back to get me. So I'm curious what they're doing with that. I'm also curious how Suiter is going to tie in with everyone else, considering that he didn't get arrested. And then also the cases that he's been following, what's happening with those? How are those going to are they going to tie into everything else? Are we going to get resolutions to them? So yeah, I have a lot of questions about what they're gonna do with the Suitor character by the end of the show, like and how his involvement in the real life events warranted him being on this TV show. Because right now, he doesn't really seem like if you take everything Sean Suitor out, nothing changes. So like it makes me wonder like why was he put in here? He must have had a bigger role than it feels like he had so far. So, but maybe he'll be somebody who testifies. Actually, I bet that's what it is. Because they talk about how the whole one of the themes that have been present in these past few episodes is that none of the people trust the police. They can't get jurors because everyone thinks the police are going to lie. Sean can't get anybody to answer his questions about a murder because nobody trusts them and because the police do all kinds of dirty shit. What if, as a way to show that there are good cops, Sean testifies against those guys? So now it's like, you not only have somebody who will ensure that these people end up in jail because like, why would he lie? And then two, you get the public perception of like, wow, there are good cops. This cop's out here testifying. Maybe K-Stop hits the stand, and that's why we saw him today. So I bet that's what it is. But I'm 60 minutes. Okay, I'll go ahead and wrap this one up. But like I said, I want to reiterate, I'm offering some very light criticisms, but that's not to say that I don't enjoy this show. I enjoy this show quite a bit. I think Bernthal's absence in this episode makes the ways in which it is a little bit flawed stand out a little bit more. I do still believe that every episode feels exactly the same. Like there's no one episode you'd be like, well, that one was really good because it had blank. Like they all are pretty much the same. And I think that the show suffers because of that, where it doesn't feel like a TV show. It just feels like a whole bunch of stories being told over and over. And it just has the same kind of structure and design. But I'm still enjoying this show, and I will see you guys next week for the finale, episode 6. So until then, peace.